Welcome to Bedtime History. Hello, this is Breck. When was the last time you helped someone? Did it feel like it was very important? How did you feel at the time? Most people go through their lives performing acts of service at one time or another. Clara Barton was a special person who devoted her entire life to helping others and tried to be of service in whatever she did. In her family and her work, even on the battlefield of the American Civil War. Clarissa Barton was born Christmas Day in 1821. She started going to school when she was just 3 years old, and she was very good at reading and spelling. Clara only had one friend because she was so shy and timid. When she was 10, her brother David fell from the roof of a barn and hurt his head very badly. Clara wanted to help take care of him, so she learned how to give him his medicine and how to place leeches on his body, which was a typical medical practice at the time. Even after the doctors gave up on treating her brother, Clara continued to help care for him, and he eventually got better. While Clara was growing up, her family moved in order to help a family member take care of their house and farm. Clara was happy and persistent in offering her help, which included repairing and repainting the house that Clara's family lived in. She loved to play with her cousins and loved activities such as horseback riding. As a teenager, Clara's parents encouraged her to become a school teacher as a way to help her overcome her shyness. She received her teaching certificate and was a very good teacher, able to handle even the most rambunctious and energetic children. Clara was asked to open a free public school in New Jersey. The school became very successful, and Clara would teach classes to over 600 people. Clara later moved to Washington, D.C., and worked in the U.S. Patent Office as a clerk, helping to file and keep track of patents. She was the first woman to receive a clerkship in the federal government, and her salary was the same as the male clerks in the Patent Office. While she worked at the Patent Office, the American Civil War began. In the Civil War, the northern states and the southern states fought over whether the nation should be divided or stay together. During the war, many soldiers were hurt in battle. Clara went to the railroad station in Washington, D.C. to help nurse the wounded men who had been transported there. She brought them food, clothing, and supplies they needed to recover from their injuries. As she worked with the men, Clara learned how to store and distribute medical supplies. She worked hard to help the soldiers feel cared about. She often read books to them and helped them write letters to their families. She talked to them to help keep them in good spirits. Clara believed this is what she was meant to do in life and began to look for ways to help the soldiers. In 1862, in Virginia, she saw the awful fighting firsthand and helped care for wounded soldiers near several other battles, including Cedar Mountain, Second Bull Run, Antietam, and Fredericksburg. In order to gather supplies, Clara even placed an ad in the newspaper, and people in the area helped donate supplies to take care of the soldiers. Even when supplies weren't available, Clara still did everything she could to help. For example, at one battle where they didn't have any bandages, she treated the wounded using corn husks instead. The soldiers gave her the nickname, the Angel of the Battlefield, for the help that she gave them. Clara was known for helping all soldiers who needed aid, even if they fought for the other side, which in this case was the South. She said, "I may be compelled to face danger, but never fear it. And while our soldiers can stand and fight, I can stand and feed and nurse them." Clara was brave and helped soldiers even while battles were taking place around her. While she was tending one soldier, a bullet from the fighting tore through the sleeve of her dress. After the war ended, Clara discovered that the relatives of soldiers who had died in the war were sending letters to the War Department trying to find their loved ones. These letters were going unanswered because the soldiers had been buried in unmarked graves, which meant that no one knew what had happened to them or where they were buried. Clara wrote to Abraham Lincoln asking for permission to start responding to the families and to try and locate their missing loved ones. President Lincoln said yes, and she began running the Office of Missing Soldiers. Clara and her assistants wrote over 40,000 replies to letters, helping to locate more than 22,000 missing men. During the summer of 1865, She helped to find, identify, and properly bury 13,000 individuals who died in a Confederate prisoner of war camp. She would continue to work with the Office of Missing Soldiers for 4 more years, helping to identify and bury 20,000 more Union soldiers. Clara gave lectures around the United States about her experiences during the war and drew large crowds when she spoke. After her speaking tour, a doctor suggested that she travel to rest and remove herself from the physically and mentally demanding work she had done. She decided to travel to Europe. While in Europe, Clara Barton worked with the organization known as the International Red Cross. She helped prepare military hospitals and gave aid to the Red Cross Society during the Franco-Prussian War. She helped poor people in Strasbourg find work after the siege of Paris and was put in charge of distributing supplies to the people of Paris. Because of her work, Clara was given the Golden Cross of Baden and the Prussian Iron Cross. She was so inspired that she began to petition for an American branch of the International Red Cross to be created. Clara argued that not only could the American Red Cross be helpful in the war, but it could also give relief and aid during natural disasters like earthquakes, forest fires, and hurricanes. It was founded in 1881 with its first branch in New York, and Clara served as the first president of the American branch. Clara continued to help the Red Cross across the world as well. In 1897, she sailed to Constantinople and helped to open the first American International Red Cross headquarters in Turkey. She would also take several trips to Armenia to provide relief and aid, and she worked in hospitals in Cuba. To this day, the American National Red Cross continues to be an important part of our country. They provide emergency assistance, disaster relief, and disaster preparedness education throughout the United States. Clara continued to give speeches and lectures about her work after she left the Red Cross. She published a book about her life called The Story of My Childhood. She would pass away 5 years later after contracting pneumonia. The work that Clara Barton did to help others and the example she set of continuous service continues to be an inspiration. In 1948, a postage stamp with a portrait of Clara and an image of the American Red Cross symbol were created. Clara Barton was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1973. The next time you see someone who needs help, remember Clara Barton and her example of service. There are always opportunities to help others, large and small, and our acts of service can help others to see the importance of giving aid and being helpful however possible.